I,
Now my phone's sliding.
you gotta hold your phone. Oh Lord, everybody, this is my interview with my amazing uncle today, so we're gonna have some laughs. Welcome to the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast. I am your host, Nia Imani, and I have the wonderful privilege of interviewing my handsome uncle, Alvin Raymond Fields. Hi, Uncle Alvin.
Hi, baby. How you doing?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to read your bio and then we can get started. Okay.
Okay.
Alvin Raymond Fields, aka my Uncle Alvin, is a talented artist and educator who made significant contributions to the art community in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was a member of the original Anti-Graffiti Network and taught advanced drawing to students through the City of Philadelphia Department of Recreation. He opened and ran the first Black-owned artist co-op in the city and served as the set designer for the
Yep.
Avante Theater Company. He also painted a dedication mural for the People's Emergency Center and had gallery shows and exhibits. In addition to his artistic achievements, my Uncle Alvin had a successful career at Verizon and is a prostate cancer thriver and a proud member of the LGBTQIA plus community. Uncle Alvin, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the first question I ask all the guests is, who do you say you are?
Interesting question. I am simply put me, Alvin. That's it. I am Alvin. I just give.
I like that, Uncle. I like that. Can you share how your experiences with Anti-Graffiti Network influence your beliefs and influence your art? And what's the importance of providing artistic outlets for youth in underserved areas?
Okay. Simply put. My experiences with anti-graffiti, in a nutshell, let's put it this way. Anti-graffiti greatly influenced me in all aspects of my art experience. That was my first real great experience
Okay.
in the art community. And I say that because I was young, fresh out of college, and anti-graffiti, even before it was known as the Anti-Graffiti Network, it was graffiti something. And it started because of the tagging situation in the city of Philadelphia and the gang situation in Philadelphia. And they needed to establish a way of positively getting artists
Mhm.
in the city, right, to more or less find a way of channeling their artistic way of doing their artwork without mutilating the city.
Mhm.
So they said, let's find some young people who came out of college and who were also taggers, because I was one of them.
What is a tagger?
You know, the people who wrote graffiti on the
Okay.
wall, their names and stuff
Okay.
like that,
Okay.
or did images on walls, on bridges. You know how you go like under I-95 and you see these big names and stuff? Well,
Okay.
those were considered taggers.
Okay.
And they would go about the city and deface property. They would literally deface people's walls, storefronts, without care. They just didn't care with their names, gang tags, or whatever. And back in the early 70s, late 70s, that was a big thing.
Okay.
So we needed to find a positive way to turn that around. So that's what we did. And in North Philadelphia, primarily, which is where most of the tagging was done, they figured, let's get some of the so-called youth who were involved in that to do it. So me and my big mouth, um, Elaine Evans and Herb Moskowitz, who were in the city of Philadelphia's recreation department, said, well, we know Alvin, or we've heard of him, we've seen his work. Let's get him and some other people involved. So we can't pay them, but let's see if we can get them involved in doing something. And they didn't know what to do. And we figured, okay, let's see if we do murals. So murals? Ooh, okay, well, I like that idea. I can start doing some murals. Well, who's going to fund this? So the city said they would fund it. Well, where we're going to be based. They didn't know where to base it. So they figured, let's use some of the city's recreation centers. And that's how it started. And it was a great medium. So we store paints in the recreation centers around the city. And we had to use some of our own money to do it. And that's when we started. It was important in that it got the kids off the street. It got the gangs involved in doing some inspirational murals. And that's how it started. So we started doing Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, and it just blew up.
That's amazing.
And that's how it started. And then we started seeing some really big murals. Unfortunately, it didn't last because it was a different time period. It was during the Frank Rizzo administration. There was a lot of political unrest, but it was a way of getting a lot of the Black and brown community involved.
Wow.
So, yeah.
How did that make you feel? And how were you able to teach others how to channel their art in a positive way?
When you know as well as I do, art is the mainstay in a community. It's the brain wave, whether it's the visual communicative arts, whether it's dance, whether it's poetry or whatever. It's the mainstay in a community. So when you talk to our people, Black or brown, Native American, we are such a creative people. And people in North Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, when you talk to them about creative influences, they perk up.
Yeah.
They really do, because you talk to them about music, you talk to them about arts. Those are all interconnected and they perk up. You talk to them about your own personal experiences with that and they can relate. And if you get them on board with that, you've got them.
Yeah.
You got them. So once you make that interpersonal connection and you advocate with them on that, you got them. You got the tie-in. You got the buy-in. Once you get the buy-in, you're automatically on board. They follow you.
That's beautiful. So you were really able to. I wonder if you were able to really connect with others, not only because of your personality, but because you came from the projects.
That
It's
was the biggest thing. I think because of my mother, she always said, there was that saying, never look down on anyone unless you're giving a hand to lift them up. Being a child of the PJs of the projects, you always never forget.
Mhm.
And I'm never one to forget where I come from. So I always tell everybody I'm from Abbotsford. I'm from Abbotsford, so I got it, you know, and I came from around 30th and Norris area originally. So what do you got? What you got? Talk to me. What do you got?
Did did that confidence help you find the Black co-op? Talk to us about that.
The Black co-op, that was interesting. It was five of us, fresh out of college too. I never had one job.
I see.
I never had one job. I always had juggling 2 and 3 jobs. Okay. Um, we said in the tri-state area, there was never a co-op for artists to gather.
Mhm.
There was something in New York. There was something on the West Coast in California, but there was never anything in Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. So we said, we were fresh out of school, and a young lady named Anna K. King came to me and said, "What are we going to do about it?" I said, "We ain't got no money. We ain't got no money, honey." And she said, "Well, we're fresh out of school. I'm a graphic artist. You're an illustrator." And she said, "Let's talk to Bill Foster." I said, "Okay, Bill ain't got no money either. And he fresh out of school. We all just came out of college, out of art school." She said, "Okay." Um, I said, "All right, let's talk to Bill." And then we got 2 other guys. So I said, "Well, we can always start a co-op." She said, "Oh, that's great. When are we going to do it?" I said, "We don't know nobody." She said, "So," I said, "Where we going to meet?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, I know of a guy in West Philly.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know if he's going to help, but let's go there." So we went to a guy at 39th and Lancaster Avenue, and me and my big mouth again. I said, "Can we use your space just to have a meeting?" He said, "Sure."
Wow.
Now, he was just about to retire. He had a print shop right on the corner of 39th and Lancaster Avenue, and we had our first meeting.
Wow.
Well, he was newsy and sat in on the meeting. He retired a week later and said, "You know what? Since you guys have this idea of starting this co-op that I don't think has a chance in hell to fly, but you guys are young, I tell you what, how much money can you guys come up with?"
Uh,
I had $5,000. Anna Kay had $2,000. And between all of us, we came up with about $12,000.
Wow.
He gave us his print shop,
Wow.
all the equipment in it,
Wow.
with 3 years, no, excuse me, 3 months rent free.
Wow.
He said, "If you can do this, it's yours." He said, "I'll give it to you 3 months rent free, but you got to pay the rent after that and all the utilities."
Mhm.
We were like, "Yeah!" So we already had our LLC, um, and we said, "Let's do this." So we started doing resume preparation, artist workshops. We had interview prep. We started doing printing for other businesses in the area. We had oh my God, we had portfolio reviews for any artist that wanted to come in, all of this. Now, are you ready for this? Free of charge.
Wow.
Free of charge. So what we had to do was come up with innovative ways of raising money
I
to
think
cover
so.
cover the cost of us existing.
Right, I think so.
We had 4 businesses that gave us money up front because they said, you Black owned and operated
Yeah.
in West Philly on the corner. We had a corner spot, prime area in West Philly, Powelton Village area.
Wow.
We were kicking it out for a little bit, but what was our downfall was we had no business
Right.
experience.
Right.
But we lasted for a year.
That's good. That's good.
So
So did that
yeah,
help
yeah.
you get into the Avante theater company with that experience, creating, sets and all things like that? Did that help you, go to the next step?
Avante Theater came about in the process of me doing that as well as doing other things. At the time, I was doing anti-graffiti. I
Okay.
was also doing the summer art camp. So Avante, John Giuliano, who ran the Avante theater company,
Uh-huh.
saw my work. He saw my works.
Mhm.
He said, "This guy is interesting. This is a little nut case because he has a big mouth." So that's what he told me. He said, "You have a big mouth." He said, "I don't know how you're going to fit in, but he called me in for an interview." So I came in for the interview, and he said, "Do you have any set design experience?" I said, "No, not one, not a bit." He said, "I want to do the best of Black Broadway.
Mm.
I want to do a whole review. I want to do Porgy and Bess, Ain't Misbehaving, Sophisticated Lady. I want to do a whole review and take it to Broadway."
Mhm.
I said, "That's a big to do, big production. I don't know if you have the right person."
Mhm.
He said, "I've seen your work. I know you can do it. Um, so let's see how it goes." I said,
Mhm.
"Okay." He said, "Can you build a set?" Oh, so I can build a set. I just need a team. He said, "Okay." So he gave me 2 weeks to come up with a design. So I came up with a design, and I actually have the original design with me. This is funny. This is too funny. I turned the entire set into a working piano
Wow.
that they could actually stand on, sing on, dance on, and the keys move.
Uncle Alvin.
That was, from what I can gather, the first time in theater history that was ever done that a stage actually moved
Right.
and people danced on. Um, it was a lot of hard work. He said, "I don't think this can be done because you have to have moving parts, and people will actually have to be able to move and stand on it." So the keys, the white keys, were like 6 feet wide. Well, between 4 to 6 feet wide and about 8 feet long. And the black keys were set back like a piano set
Right.
back. They were about like 2 to 3 feet and about 4 feet. So they had to be careful how they stepped, but they actually moved. And you had they just didn't play.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, they couldn't get sound out of them. So they had an actual real piano playing in the background. So the audience really thought
That it was
that it
playing.
was playing. And the hands that went in the backdrop,
Uh-huh.
they actually moved.
That is
So
amazing.
yeah, it was interesting. But the interesting part was the sets had to break down
Mhm.
and move from theater to theater.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
You are amazing. I just so this entire your career has been creativity, but then also advocacy. And it's
Yeah.
all, like you said before, interconnected. So you're a creative, you are a talent, you are a mentor. How did this, if it did, play a part in you being like one of the original advocates for the LGBTQ plus community, and then being a strong voice as a prostate cancer thriver?
Interesting enough, I think my advocacy in the LGBTQIA plus community was by happenstance.
Mm.
Um, it wasn't something that I did purposefully. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, that happened because of the HIV AIDS epidemic.
Mhm.
At that time, it was known as GRID.
Okay.
Um, and there were several um, organizations around, one called We the People. Um, there was one called Congreso de Latino,
Mm.
which is Congreso now. There was one forming called Act Up.
Okay.
Uh, we protested in the streets, literally.
Mm.
We did street sit-ins. We sat out on Broad Street. Um, there were a few arrests, which we will not speak of, because mom was not too happy.
Mhm.
um, so my advocacy started because of that, and um, there were people like David Fair, um, Sabrina Kaysen, Maury Ross, um, working, and I just happened to fall in amongst these amazing people. Um, and they got me involved in doing, artwork and just running my mouth. Um, so it was by happenstance. Then my godson, you know, um, and then seeing some of my godkids and their abuse and having to take them in because their parents kicking them out,
Mhm.
um, having nowhere to go, and my door is always open, so I'm going to take them in, you know. And a lot of them had HIV. Some of them have full blown AIDS. Um, some of them had cancer.
Mhm.
Um, Matter of fact, a lot of them had cancer.
Mhm.
Um, and you do what you do, and you don't worry about the consequences. You
Mhm.
just care for them.
Mhm.
Um, And then you have organizations that start to come about, like Outfest, which really didn't exist at that time. It was Gay Pride,
Okay.
and Outfest was a byproduct of that. And there was an art contest to come up with the rainbow flag. So I participated in doing the artwork that came about. That thing came about. I don't know if you know about the quilt project.
Yes.
Okay, well, all of these things came about because of the quilt project. Uh, my brother Kyle has a quilt in that quilt project. Carol has a quilt in the quilt project.
Can you tell the people what the quilt project is for those who may not know?
The AIDS quilt is a quilt that came about many years ago for young men and women, gay and lesbian, young adults, children who passed of AIDS. And for lack of a better way, it's a pride recognition of their passing. So families got together to make a homemade quilt, and the quilts were tied together and all banded together. And once a year, it was exhibited in Washington, D.C. on the Washington Square. And now the quilt is so large that it's just too massive to be exhibited. But they want to do, as a matter of fact, this year 2025 is supposed to be exhibited in Washington on the Square.
Amazing.
But it's just exhibit part of it because it's too big.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so how did that translate for your advocacy in that space to the cancer space with you being diagnosed with prostate cancer?
Because I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, it was just an additional impetus for me to keep it moving. I think what happens is you grow up and you see a need. And if it weren't for giving credit where it's due, your mom, my sister Narda Bailey, my mother, Lorraine Bird Fields Latham, and recognizing God and that I have to be an advocate and an educator and let people know that prostate cancer is real and men need to have things taken care of and not be afraid to step forward. You know, these things need to be done. Men of all forms, especially in the LGBTQIA community, are so afraid to step forward. And it's something that I make a priority to step out into the gay bars, on gay clubs, and tell them, you need to have these things addressed. So I do it with my nephew and my godson. We just go and do these things. We're bold. We got big mouths. We do. We don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care. We're going in and say we're going down there to have a drink, but we're actually going down there to talk to people.
Yeah.
And educate and advocate and tell them about Bird.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're really? And then I pull up the site and I show them. And they're like, oh, really? I said, yeah, we actually have LGBTQ IA representatives.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
You know, and we started it. Hey, that's our picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
You are
yeah,
you're amazing. In your life, you have not had an easy life, but you have
no.
always given back to those who are often hidden in the shadows, who are often um, not understood, and you have always been a voice for people. And I think that your voice is so important. You are so important, and by people listening to your words and seeing you and hearing what you have to say, I'm wondering, what do you think people will say who you are after listening to this?
I think people will probably say he's Alvin. He's just Alvin. He cares. He gives,
Yeah,
but he's just Alvin.
I like that. Well,
That's it.
I think people are going to say you're more than just Alvin. You are a creative, you are an artist, and all this makes Alvin. But you are absolutely phenomenal. And I'm so glad that the world gets to hear from my amazing Alvin Raymond Fields. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Baby, I appreciate you. You are amazing.
Okay,
Everything you do
okay.
is amazing.
We're talking about you.
I can talk about you if I want.
Oh my goodness. Everybody, this is my amazing Uncle Alvin. How Uncle Alvin, if people want to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Just contact me at my email, alvinrfields@gmail.com.
There you go. alvinrfields@gmail.com. Contact Alvin, Uncle Alvin. You can get to call him too. And thank you so much for joining the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast. We will see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
On behalf of everyone here at the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast, we thank you, the listeners. You could be doing anything else with your time, but you decided to spend time with us. And for that, we thank you. We feel so special. To our guests, thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to impart wisdom, information, and knowledge. What a blessing that is. To all of the listeners, please make sure to follow us on social media at the Humanitarian Heartbeat Podcast. Of course, you can listen to us on your favorite platforms. Find us on YouTube and make sure that no matter what you do in this life, you follow your heart. God bless.